All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are going to tackle one of the most talked about skills in the AI world, and honestly, one that gets a lot of eye rolls: prompt engineering. It's really all about how we talk to AI, and as it turns out, there are some hidden rules to that conversation. And yeah, that is putting it lightly. I mean, for a term that's absolutely everywhere, it is shockingly controversial. You've got people on one side calling it a critical engineering discipline, and then you've got others who just write it off as, messing with words until you get lucky. The tension is definitely real. So that leads us to the big question we're going to explore today. Is prompt engineering just a fancy new term for playing around with chatbots, or is there actually some real, solid science and structure behind it all? Well, we're going to find out. Here's our game plan. We'll start with that big "is it real" debate. Then we're going to get our hands dirty and break down what actually goes into a good AI instruction. After that, we'll cover some super practical tips for crafting prompts that work. Then we'll flip the coin and look at the dark side, prompt attacks, and finally, how we can actually defend against them. Okay, first up, let's just dive right into this debate. Because before we can really decide if it's a real discipline, we all have to be on the same page about what prompt engineering even is. So here's the absolute key. It is not about retraining the AI. You're not changing its core programming, what they call the weights. It's all about communication. Think of yourself less like a programmer changing the code and more like a really, really good director, guiding an actor to the perfect performance using just your words. And this quote from a research manager at OpenAI just nails it. The skill itself, it's real and it's useful. But the problem comes when it's the only tool in your toolbox. To build really solid AI applications, prompting has to work alongside all the other classic engineering skills. It's just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. Okay, so if it is a real skill, what does it look like in practice? Let's get under the hood and look at the fundamental building blocks of a great prompt. Because it turns out, it's a lot more structured than just asking a simple question. A truly great prompt is kind of like a recipe with three main ingredients. First, you have the task description. This is where you tell the AI its job, its role, maybe even the format you want the output in. Then, and this is so important, you provide examples to show it what a good answer looks like. It's like giving it a study guide. And only then, at the end, do you give it the task, the actual thing you want it to work on. Now, this is where a really cool idea called in-context learning comes in. When you give the AI 0 examples, that's called zero shot. It's basically just guessing based on its training. But when you provide even just 1 or 2 examples, that's few shot learning. You are essentially teaching the model how to behave in real time, right there in the prompt. It's incredibly powerful. And the amount of space we have to give those examples, the context window, has just exploded. I mean, look at these numbers. Think of it like the AI's short-term memory. In just 5 years, we've gone from a memory that could hold maybe a few pages of a book to one that can hold multiple novels. It's a complete game changer and makes providing all that rich context more critical than ever. All right, enough theory. That's all great, but let's get practical. Now that we know the ingredients and how much room we have to work with, how do you actually write prompts that get the job done? Here's a wild finding from some recent research. When you feed an AI a huge chunk of text, a giant haystack of information, it doesn't pay equal attention to everything. If you've got a really important instruction, the needle, your best bet is to put it right at the very beginning or right at the very end of your prompt. And you can see it right here in this chart. It's a perfect U shape. The AI's accuracy is high at the start, it takes a nosedive in that messy middle, and then it shoots right back up at the end. The takeaway is simple. Don't bury your most important instructions in the middle of a super long prompt. And let's look at the incredible power of just one single example. If you ask a simple question like, "Will Santa bring me presents?" the AI might give you a very boring factual answer. But if you first give it an example of a playful, fun response, look what happens. The entire tone changes. It becomes this cheerful character, all because of that one little piece of guidance. Here's another pro tip. For really complex stuff, don't try to build one massive do-it-all prompt. It's better to break the problem down into smaller steps. Think about a customer support bot. First, it can use a really simple prompt just to figure out what the user wants. Is it a billing question or a tech support question? Once it knows, it can then trigger a second highly specialized prompt just for that specific task. It's way more reliable. This might be the simplest, most powerful trick in the entire playbook. Just by adding the magic words, think step by step, you force the model to slow down and show its work. This technique is called chain of thought, and it can dramatically cut down on errors, especially for problems that require logic or reasoning. It's amazing. But of course, this incredible power to control an AI with just a few words, well, it has a dark side. The same techniques we use to create amazing things can also be twisted to break them. So let's talk about prompt attacks. Generally, these attacks fall into three main buckets. First, you have prompt extraction. This is basically corporate espionage, tricking an AI into revealing its own secret instructions. Then there's jailbreaking, which is all about bypassing the AI's safety rules to make it generate harmful or forbidden content. And finally, information extraction, which might be the most dangerous, convincing the model to leak sensitive private data it was never supposed to share. Here is a classic jailbreak example. It's called DAN, which stands for Do Anything Now. It's a role-playing attack. It tries to convince the model to act as this other unrestricted AI persona. And for a while, it worked. By getting the AI to play this role, people could get it to say and do things that its safety filters were built to prevent. And these attacks are getting sneakier. With something called indirect prompt injection, the attack isn't even coming from the user. An attacker can hide a malicious command on the public website. Then, later when your AI assistant browses that website to answer a totally normal question, it reads that hidden command and carries it out without you ever knowing. It's a massive security hole. So, that's pretty scary, right? If attackers can hide these little instruction landmines all over the internet, how on earth do we defend against them? Well, the world of AI security is now in an arms race to build up our defenses. And there isn't one single solution. It really takes a layered defense, kind of like defending a castle. At the core, you have model-level defenses, training the AI to be smarter and more resistant. Then you have the prompt level, which is like posting guards at the gate, explicitly telling the model in your own instructions what it should never do. And finally, you have system-level defenses, the moat and the drawbridge, things like external monitoring tools and requiring a human to approve any risky actions. So when you boil it all down, you can see that prompt engineering is really a two-sided coin. On one side, it's this incredibly powerful tool for creating and building. But on the other, it represents a brand new and absolutely critical frontier for cybersecurity. And that really leaves us with a final question to think about. This isn't just about code and technology anymore. It's about communication. As AI gets woven into the fabric of everything we do, the real challenge for all of us is learning to speak this new language so we can become better communicators, to build amazing things, and also to defend against the ways it can be misused.